Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back. It is me, Cyber Warrior. This is CyberWarriorStudios, and you are here for another amazing, another exciting, another awesome episode of Security Happy Hour. With me, as always, I have my partner in crime, my friend, and my co-host, Eric Bellardo.
Hey, hey,
And with us
hey. How's
today,
everybody
as
doing?
with us today is our special guest, William Bailey, who joined us near the end of last year. He was on, and we had Cyber Snark here as well. But today it is just William and the Land Shark, and we are going to talk all things training and kind of a lot of your training plans going forward into 2022 and just how things can may change. There's been a lot of movement in the training as far as getting trained in cybersecurity, especially the past, I don't know, maybe 6 months. So, William, to get us started, man, what sparked you to really want to talk about training going into this show?
Well, what sparked me going into this is someone who I actually got my start. School of Hard Knocks, putting computers together, and then getting a few certifications because I didn't even have a degree. And I'm sitting here December 31st of 2021 going, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I've got to enter in all these ECE credits. I've got to enter all these continuing education credits, and they go into a pending status. Well, what the heck is this? You want my money and you won't even approve my credits? And I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, the people who I have a degree, I have certifications, I do try hack me and things of that sort. And like, oh my gosh, now, okay, so, yeah, and what do people do this year? Like going forward? Because it's just, yeah, because you see a lot of the training, there's a certain certification organization that I think I messaged you and we were talking about how 74 something plus another 900 for the exam. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, there's a lot of certifications out there. Um, we've seen a lot of movement with a lot of people trying to basically turn that the training and certification industry on its head, right? With the Cyber Mentor and Udemy and Joe Hell and just everybody else that's coming out with trainings now, and honestly offering it for little to no cost. Some of it, yeah, I think some of them might go up to a couple $100, but you're looking at some of the biggest certification vendors. They're like, oh, this is a junior level cert. It's still going to cost you seven, eight, nine, sometimes $1,000 plus just to get an entry level certification. So
And
what organization's going to pay for it?
that's not including all the training and the
Hmm.
boot camps and the courses and the books that you need to do. So, it's very cost prohibitive for new people coming in to get those initial certs.
Right, right, and that's a big part. So Bill, with that, um, you know, what would you say to anybody who wants to get it? Because I was very lucky. I had the Army pay for a lot of my certifications, and I even in school I got a lot of my certifications by going through like Pittsburgh Technical Institute. Well, it's Pittsburgh Technical College now, but I went through PTI and got a lot of Microsoft and Cisco certs. So I did. I was lucky. I had a head start by deciding I was going to go to the certification route when I did things. But some people aren't, and some people can't afford it. So, what would be your advice and kind of what you see as some of the paths they can take to really set up a training plan for themselves moving forward, whether it's from nothing or from like help desk sysadmin?
Well, I mean, you mentioned Pittsburgh Technical Institute, now Pittsburgh.
Don't be a
I,
hater.
That's for Carmen.
uh, there, yeah. Well, yeah, Pittsburgh is a town that decides that they want to put tolls on all those bridges, and there's a lot of bridges out in Pittsburgh. That
All right,
doesn't
look, the
matter.
bridges aren't told right now. The bridges are still good. It's the turnpike that can't figure out what the heck they're doing. They're charging money for a road that I don't know. I don't know. I can't figure it out because no one works the tolls anymore. So, like, the cost goes up and they're not even paying people. So, who knows?
No, I know that trip to Pittsburgh because I've done the trip to Pittsburgh a few times. I've done the trip through Pittsburgh out to Columbus a few times, quite a few times. More like it's like I know the exits. It's like, oh, that's my exit. Don't even need. Um, the one thing you started to mention, like Pittsburgh Technical, and just that general term, like when you say technical, something I would say is you do need to know what you're getting into, or you should have a plan, and you need to be your own best advocate for your learning paths. Um,
Right.
because I've taught a couple places that I feel like a little dirty after teaching there.
Yeah,
20 some years ago when I had no degree and I was teaching people Office.
man, I got certified in Office back in, when Office 2000 was out.
Oh wow, he's a mouse.
I was master certified. That was like the first that started me down my certification journey was in high school for Business Academy. It was, hey, we're going to go through these Microsoft certifications. And I was like, all right, cool. And I was the only one, and I've told this story before. I was the only one in the school district to include the teachers that actually got master certified because I went and took the Outlook certification, which wasn't even a course offered in the high school. I was like, I'll learn it and do it. Screw it. And I went and did it. And yeah, I was the only one in the school district that had my master certification.
That reminds me. I got an email one time. I was number 7, the CIW Grand Web Master. I
Nice.
had They didn't even offer it in North America, and it was weird. I was just taking every single test under the sun,
Yeah.
and I got this notice that says, "Oh, you congratulations, you're a CIW Web Master." I'm like, "What the heck is it?" It was like master class points.
Oh man, like the things they do and the way these go. So, if someone were to want to get into security, and let's say they had no IT background, right? So they've never really done anything with technology, except maybe work on it a little bit at home. Would you recommend any specific certification, or would you go more the route like I tend to do, and recommend more just learning the concepts and material? You don't necessarily have to get certified.
Well, so my experience, there is something to be said for the certification, and there's a certain certification body that has changed the pricing of their exams, and they implemented a continuing education program which has its own prices and money involved in it. I was actually Mac certified, Mac A plus certified, because it was an extra $25. It was like 150 for the A plus and an extra $25 if you want the Macintosh piece. I was like, sure, what the heck. Um, and you could do it really cheap on the cheap if you're determined. And like, those comfy chairs that used to exist in Barnes and Noble many, many years ago? Hi, I'm one of the reasons those chairs got removed.
You used to sit there and read the entire time.
Why not? Chair,
Hey,
book. And
exactly. And so it's crazy because you're right. It's just like going to a library. If they're going to have a chair there, sit and read.
and they were downright comfortable chairs.
Oh, they were for
Yeah.
sure,
They
for
got rid of
sure.
them. They're
Yeah,
all hard chairs now.
now they're like this. You sit there like,
Yeah, it's so. I mean, I'm all for CompTIA, certifications, especially as entry level. And there's been a lot of debate behind certifications, and even I say you don't necessarily have to get certified. You have to have either the experience or the knowledge or some way to back up what you're applying for.
Right.
But I stand by this fact, and I was looking at JJ Davies' post on LinkedIn. I think it was earlier today or yesterday, um, and he was talking about um, you know certifications. And it's not that he doesn't agree with them; he's actually going to go for a few himself. But what they are is something for a company to look at to at least give a standard of knowledge, right? If you have this certification, you should, not saying all people do. We all know people get, their paper certified, but you should have a standard body of knowledge to go with that certification. So it allows them to weed out people that aren't going to fit into that job level. What we both agree on, though, is that the CISP should never be a junior level cert,
Oh no.
which is where a lot of problem comes in. Where in the security field, you'll see those high level certs listed for junior level positions.
well, let me say something here because the industry Look at that. They both started drinking at the same time.
You're
So,
talking. I have
Why
to
are you waiting?
okay, so the industry has changed from learning the skills to passing the tests. And all these different certifications, except, and I'm going to do this, except for some of the pen testing ones that require you to prove your skills during the test. Most of them are, if you pick up Security Plus or even the CISSP later on, they're meant to pass the test, and it really doesn't measure your ability to do the job. So to me, having that base knowledge to pass the test does not always equal the knowledge to do the job out there in the field.
Wait, go ahead,
Go
Derek.
ahead. No, I was gonna say, go ahead.
Well,
You're the
I was
guest,
going to
man.
say it's tough to know what every single company wants. Like if you use, I'm just going to pick on in the DLP space, Proofpoint and ForcePoint, right? They're both big players out there, right?
Yeah.
Or like an MDM, you say Mobile Iron versus whatever Cisco has, or these other products that are out there. Like, a vendor product specific cert pigeonholes you, and if you understand what you were doing in the product, like you'll have to go hunting for the screen. Like today, I was looking for screens in Cvent, and they've just changed their whole event management platform. But I understand the old platform, and I'm fumbling through some of the steps, but I know what I'm looking for.
Right.
And I think that's the key skill that employers should be looking for, is the fact that you know the thing that you're looking for, and you just have to find the exact link.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things. Like with Cisco, one of the first certs I got after, once I got through college, was I was going for networking. I was really big on understanding networking. And I felt that the CCNA, because I knew a brand, I knew the name, I felt it was going to do a lot for me, which rightfully so. I think that was the difference back then, is even though it was proprietary to their commands, right? The learning behind it and the way it taught you networking and how these routing protocols all worked and how subnetting was and IP addresses. I will say the CCNA, when I went through, and we're talking, I don't know, 15 years ago now, um, it was very much, it was a vendor cert for, hey, these are how you configure our routers and switches, but gave you so much of that back end like knowledge that you would get and maybe not even get in, say, the Net Plus, because it did explain BGP and EIGRP and OSPF and all these different routing protocols that, had I not gone through the CCNA, I would be completely like deaf, dumb, and blind to half the stuff that I've done in security.
No, and what's funny was, Cisco. It's funny you mentioned Cisco. I took the Cisco certification because I was getting ragged on because I was like A plus, Network plus, Security plus, CEH, and a whole bit. And someone said, "Oh, but you don't know Cisco. You don't know nothing. You don't know nothing." That's like part of a Michael Jackson video, right?
Right.
You don't know nothing. And I took the Cisco track, and I learned it. And it's very much, you have to know their interface, and they do delve into subnetting, and understanding subnetting gets you through that exam in the time frame that they give you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, like at this point, I know my exponents, I know my powers of two, I know my I can sit there and do the math and everything. But now the one thing, as far as vendor neutrality, luckily with Cisco, I was able to take the Juniper cert. Just picked up the book and went, okay, so what does Juniper want me to know? And the Juniper flavor of the commands, but I already had the Cisco knowledge.
Right.
And like, okay, boom. It's just like picking up the Cisco Juniper documentation. Go, okay. Oh, so instead of this, you want this. Okay. Now, there was a common base that you had to work with.
Now, Eric, and you might know, or anybody in chat may know, if they've worked with Cisco lately, because I do know one of my big issues was they started pitching the GUI. They wanted you to use their web UI for a lot of things. So when I went through CCNA security, they were like, "Oh, use the web UI, use the web UI." I'm like, I hate this thing. give me the CLI, let me type in the commands I need, and they want to do that. But would you recommend for somebody that wants to A, know networking and B, get into security, going through, if it's offered at a school, if they can skip Net Plus and go to say CCNA or CCNA security, would that be a better option versus going with a CompTIA Net Plus?
All right, so the first thing, I'm going to answer the question that's posed down here. It was Michael Jackson's Fat.
Yep.
Okay. So, all right, so with that, one of the things that, having seen both of the certs, I would always recommend the CCNA first. And even today, I would recommend it because the first, I think, like 7 or 8 modules of the cert is learning everything, all the basics of of networking,
Yeah.
that you wouldn't get in other certs to the level of knowledge. So learning what is a router, what is a switch, what's the difference between them, what are your powers of two, what's your bits to, that was actually very eye-opening. And one of the things that is happening right now is, if you know the program, the Cyber Patriot program from the
Hmm.
Air Force Association, when the kids are learning, the middle school and high school kids are learning the networking, Cisco is one of their, big enterprise sponsors. They give them all the CCNA training to learn. And I'm telling you, I coached Cyber Patriot for 4 years, and it was a great introduction. It was a great step by step, all the way till being able to configure a router or a switch, and actually give, all the commands in there. Now, like you said, Cisco is very CLI command based. There are some GUIs out there, but it's very, very command based. So that part is a separate learning,
Hmm.
So, but back to the original question is, what is a really good one to learn that's going to set your foundations correctly? I think the CCNA does a very, very good job. A little bit better than, and Jerry, your
Yeah, I was just seeing that.
question,
Oops.
the Network Plus, does it teach you all of that? I think it teaches it at a different level. Yeah, and there is a, call it a basic level understanding that some of the concepts that the CCNA teaches makes that light bulb come out a lot faster. So I'm not knocking Network Plus. I think that is a great way for people to get into the field. But, if I had to pick for somebody that's coming from no knowledge to some knowledge, I'd recommend the CCNA.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
So it's funny you mentioned that, the whole Network Plus versus CCNA, and it reminds me, years ago I had these students that were Mac proponents, and hey,
Yeah.
and it's funny because we're sitting there with the CompTIA Network Plus, and at the time, at that version of the exam, the MAC address is burned in at the factory and is non-changeable. And I had additional, I'm teaching the class, but I'm like, at that point, I'm trying to teach them to get the Network Plus. And so I have to keep in mind what CompTIA is teaching at the time. And yes, I'm dating myself because the exam's changed a few times.
Yeah.
But at that time, at the time, it is burned in at the factory and is non-changeable. That's what it says in the materials. And I go, and someone
Mr.
said,
Bailey, the tests are now giving on a computer, not on a stone tablet.
Not a
Okay.
stone tablet. Then again, Eric's been around since dinosaurs, so don't worry. It's okay.
Eric used to have to do punch cards. I missed
Exactly.
that era. So no, and I know the difference between paper and computer, and I could tell stories about like ISC squared exams and ISACA exams, and what are you doing? Ha ha ha! And yes, the little circles. I was just like, And we were computer based at the time, so we it was within the last 15 years, definitely. Maybe the last 10. But the CCNA would go to the level of you have to know the CIDR, you have to be able to calculate all of those
Mm-hmm.
things.
Yeah.
Whereas the Network Plus just says identify it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'll keep it really simple for somebody.
Yeah.
Give me a subnet mask based on the CIDR, and that's the punchline. Whereas Cisco will take it to the next level and say, I want you to configure this router with X number of hosts on it,
Yep.
and they leave it
Yeah.
much more open-ended. And that's
Yeah.
where the CCNA does take it another notch.
So, as a group, let's answer Jerry because he's got a lot of questions and I think that they're very valid. So, if somebody was going to start in IT, would you say the A plus, study for Network Plus, get your CCNA cert? I think that if you're going to go through to get your initial certifications, and I always try to get people to go A plus, Net plus, Sec plus, in that vein to get into the cybersecurity world. And once you get that Sec plus, that's when you're, I guess, ready to enter and take some more challenging jobs. But we're not saying skip the Net plus here. We're not saying that at all. Okay. If you're starting networking and you want to learn the networking, we're saying that the CCNA has a little more, call it hands-on or more meat in there for learning than the Net Plus. So while it's the same material, is like what William just said is, identify a CIDR block versus calculate a CIDR block. So it's a little more meat in there. That's all we're saying. Correct? Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah. No, and I'm trying to read the questions. I think you're seeing a different different series of questions than I see. I only see a couple things in the sidebar.
Yeah.
Right there. So
it's private chat. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Okay.
and let's go. And for the audience that's listening on podcast after I rip this to the podcast form, the question is: so if someone was to start in IT, would you say A plus, study for Network Plus, and then get the CCNA cert? And we got Eric's feedback on that. Bill, what would be yours?
I would take a pit stop at the Network Plus because it gives you something that will get you past an HR gatekeeper. You don't need to keep it forever. Like that would be an example where I get the A plus, I get the Network Plus, and then when I'm ready, I get the CCNA, and I might not pay CompTIA to maintain that A plus and Network Plus because the CCNA is above that in the food chain. So I think it still has a place, and I think that's around $300 for the Network Plus. I could be wrong, because CompTIA has the right to change prices at any time.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing wrong with going that route, and if you can afford it, do it. A plus, Net plus, Sec plus, and then go for your CCNA. Because of the courses I was going through in college, the CCNA, if I had that, gave me the credits to have a network specialty on my diploma, which is why I went through and busted my ass to get my CCNA. And there's a whole backstory to college where I ended up graduating without knowing it. But it's one of those things where when I look at the certification industry, to your point, my Sec Plus is still lifetime. I got it in 08. I never converted it to the CEU Sec Plus. So to this day, unless CompTIA comes out and says, well, that's invalid now, which they have not done to my knowledge, it has been certain jobs require you to switch over to this one that requires CEUs. CompTIA itself has not. So my Sec Plus from 08 is still valid, so I can still claim it. But I really don't like certifications that require you to maintain them without an ability or a less expensive way of just taking another test or something like that. Like the CISP is pretty cheap to maintain. I think it's like $36 a year. So you do your CEUs, your webcasts or whatever, and it's very inexpensive to maintain a CISSP. But your SAM certifications now, it's like over $1,000 for one, and then every consecutive one after that, it's like $700 and some dollars or whatever. They're like, oh, we'll give you a discount. I'm just like, look, if work ain't going to cover the maintenance on this, I'm done maintaining it. I have no reason. And it's not that I don't have a reason. It's that A, I can't afford it. And B, I have a job. I have a very good career. And at this point in time in my career, if you're going to rely on my certifications to get me a job as opposed to the experience, then I don't want to work for you anyways. I have no reason to work for you.
Now, I did my A plus, Network plus, Server plus, Security plus, and there's probably a couple other pluses in there. I did a whole lot of pluses for a while, and they were all continuing CE free, right? Certified for life. And actually, a funny story. I'm teaching the courses, and what happened was they said, "Oh, if you want to teach the course, you have to get recertified." I surprised the coordinator, and I took every single CompTIA exam over again within a week.
Nice.
I passed them all. Passed every single CompTIA cert within a week. She was like, "How were you supposed to do that? How did you do that?" I knew the material.
I knocked out my retakes of the CCNA and CCNA security. Well, I didn't have to retake CCNA security. I just took it. But I knocked out the ICND1, ICND2, and CCNA security, each one of those in a week, like 2 days apart from one another. And it took me like 15, 20 minutes each. But again, I'd been around. I'd been doing in the career field. My cert just happened to expire, so I had to redo them all. But Shayna got a good question down here. Or not really a question, a statement. So she's got her, all of her CompTIA certs, Sec plus, Net plus, A plus, and got burned out on taking certs. So, and I think this is very good when we talk about training. And she said, to actually get a job, I thought it best to focus on building skills. I think she's absolutely correct. Building your skill set gives you that, when you get that technical interview, you can speak to it and you can actually talk about what they're going to ask you, versus if you just get certified and then don't do any technical work to enhance your skills, you're going to get questions that are like, I don't know, I can look it up. And that becomes an issue.
No, when I said, "Oh, I got the XYZ certification," and I was doing certification, I had been building computers and actually running way back in the 90s, running a bulletin board system in a little tiny 1-bedroom apartment, calling up the phone company and saying, "Can I have more than 4 phone lines?" And they were like, "Why do you need more than 4 phone lines?" So I had that test lab.
Yeah.
Well, Eric's got to talk to the
dial-up modems and you're trying to hack NASA, you need more than 4 phone lines.
So I was like, yeah. So I mean, you can't just read a book. I mean, and I hope I didn't say that wrong the first time. Like, I went to Barnes and Noble, and I sat in a comfy chair, because Borders didn't have a good book supply. They're out of business. That's one of the reasons why.
Yeah,
they just didn't have the books. So I was going to the bookstore, sitting in the comfy chair, because that was the stuff like, okay, here's the printed stuff, and I don't even have I've come from that. I don't have $70 to buy this book.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go sit in that comfy chair, and I'm going to read the pieces of the book that have the answers I want, that get me over that hump, that get me over that hurdle. Because you're doing the technical stuff at home, and you're doing like virtualized environments. So you do need to have some technical experience, and it's either hardware, old hardware. Nowadays, you could buy all sorts of stuff off of eBay, or virtualization. And you just virtualize it. You go, okay, here's a virtual server, and it runs really slow, but I can still learn what I need to learn. And
yeah, for sure. So Jerry has another question down here, which we need answered. I took Sans GSEC, so I can give some feedback on this. I don't know if anybody else has, but I also took Sec Plus. No, I haven't taken any of the newer ones, but I did take it back in 2008. So he wants to know the difference between Security Plus and GSEC, because the price of GSEC hurts. Yes, I don't disagree. It hurts very much for anybody. Any Sans cert is going to hurt, especially your pocketbook.
Yeah, but you didn't read it right. The price of GSEC be hurting my brain. Come on.
So for you, Bill, do you know? Have you taken the GSEC at all?
I have not found an employer who's willing to pay that kind of money for me to take anything.
Okay, so that answers the question, which means let me give my 2 cents on this. Um, I think the GSEC, especially when I took it, um, that and the Security Plus are very much alike. The difference is, to me, is in who offers the training and really teaches you the concepts. So a lot of your Security Plus boot camps and trainings are about passing the test. And it's how it's always been.
Yeah.
Any boot camp you go to, or well, not any, but a lot of the boot camps you go to are about passing the test. Whereas SANS and their instructors, and this is why it costs so much, not that I agree with the price, but this is part of their methodology behind it. Their instructors are paid top dollar because they still work in the field, and their job is to actually teach you the concepts from their experience in the field. So their curriculum is built around what they have learned through the years. And there's a lot of tribal knowledge that goes into it. So the GSEC itself, even though some of the questions may be the same, the training is very, very, very different. And you get so much more knowledge out of their instructors than you would out of a lot of, not all, but a lot of boot camp instructors for a SEC Plus.
And last night we had on the New Battlefield show, SANS instructor number 2 ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean these folks do have very much that tribal knowledge, that really good knowledge. So when you're paying for a SANS cert, you know, you're not just paying for that boot camp, for that instruction, but you know, you pay for the access to some of these instructors. I mean, SANS, I think it's 515, the ICS course is taught by Rob, you know, the basically the owner of Dragos, you know,
Yep.
so
Robert Lee.
you're yeah. Um,
There's
eh, so yeah, so you're paying for that. So that's where the cost of those are. They're great courses, but I would never, never, never recommend somebody who's trying to break into the field, or even in your early years, to go, you know, SANS because of the price and the cost of entry. It's just prohibitive.
I
So
would recommend you try to get an organization like your company that you work
yeah.
for to pay for it if they want you to do security work. But and that's where I look at their costs. Is everybody looks at it and says, "Oh, it's so high," and I tell everybody it's not meant for the individual to pay for it. They are looking for corporate sponsorship. They are looking for a company to pay for these things, not the individual. And so I think that I'll get there in a second. Um, so I think that, like, especially when I took my reverse engineering malware course, I would not have passed that test, that exam, if not for the way the instructor taught the course, because I had done very little with assembly, and their instructor went out of the way where if you had a question, he was right there to answer it and say, "Hey, you're missing this. You need to look for this. This is how you need to get through." And there's a lot of boot camps out there that don't do that. They're like, "Well, we're just going to teach you how to pass the questions on the test." And he went out of his way to help me understand the concepts that went behind reverse engineering malware. And I can't say enough about it. But we got Vinny P down here. Mr. Bailey was my CISP capstone instructor for my master's. He couldn't have been more thorough with the material and real world examples. And that is what I'm talking about. And Mr. Bailey, kudos. When people come in and give you a congratulations, it's always a positive. And the fact that you have someone here that says that is absolutely awesome.
Well, you know, and it's funny because Vinny was my student, and Vinny also worked with me. And Vinny asked me, "What do you think of this program?" And I said, I teach in a program, so I need to be very careful what I say. Obviously, I think it's a good program because I teach in it. But evaluate yourself.
Yeah.
Because some of the other schools that have been out there over the years, it's like, oh, it's a great program. You know, obviously, where I teach, I think it's a good program because I've gotten to the point where if it's not a good program, I could just not take the job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I know and I was actually talking with someone earlier today, and I was like, yeah, I there have been times that I've been teaching a class and I could hear I could actually hear someone else. It was like I was training them to teach a class, and they were also teaching a class at the same time. And I was like, "What are you doing here?" Like, and I could hear the way they were teaching their students, and I was like, "No, no, no," because there's concepts, there's real life examples,
Yeah.
there's helping people understand the concepts, and like, yes, that is where SANS, you are guaranteed, right, to get that, and
Yeah.
that's why they're so expensive. And it's funny because I was also talking to this person going, yeah, they only call me once in a blue moon. I'll get these calls from this organization because they've got like a DOD or an Army or a Visa or somebody like that. And I'm like, yeah, we can't screw this up. Send Bailey. I sit there and I go, yeah, okay. I get very sporadic calls. I could tell. It's like, oh, you got a contract from the DOD or the Navy or the Army. Oh, that's why I heard from you. Okay.
Yeah,
And it is the examples.
yeah, and that's what it comes down to, is that knowledge behind it. I do think that there are a lot of college courses out there that I don't necessarily know if it's who built the curriculum or the instructor, but I think a lot of them miss out on that tribal knowledge. Either the instructor is too young to have been in the field that long and they've always been in teaching, without actually having the experience, or the curriculum is just built wrong. When there's no hands-on, or no, when it's more theory than technical, especially when you're looking at bachelor's degrees, and even some master's degrees. I'm sorry, if your entire master's degree program is about writing papers, then yeah, I'm at a loss, especially when you have people in the field are coming for their masters that are like, I've never taken a cybersecurity course. I'm here because I want to learn it. And they're writing all papers.
Well, we have a fundamental challenge in the education side of the house, and there's some things that are happening right now with a NICE framework,
Hmm.
and there are a couple of universities are tied that are they're tied with NSA, and they're changing their curriculum because for the last couple years, there's times that a student that goes through a cybersecurity degree comes out at the other end, and you put them in front of and they get their first job, and you put them in front of a computer, and you say, "Here, run this," and they look at you with that doe-eyed look. So education without experiential education is very dangerous. And one of the things that I encourage people that are in these cybersecurity, these students that are in these cybersecurity programs, is don't just focus on what they're teaching you. Learn, get some certs, do some practice, tie with people in the industry, get some mentorship, and learn these skills in parallel as you're doing your degree.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the things we're doing now is a capstone course. And as someone who's going to be helping to teach it in April, that's one of the things I look at is how can you take something where you were told the program isn't living up to its expectations, right? So you're coming in on the back end for just the capstone course and help turn it around to where these students are actually getting something from it. And I think that's very important and that's very vital, because we need to make sure that students understand, whether it's in ISMS or some other program, that there's a reason for it, that you have to enable a business. And I do think business enablement is missing out of instruction across the board. We teach all these technical skills and all these, oh, this is how you write documentation, and these are programs and plans and policies and procedures. But the biggest thing missing out of all of that teaching and all of that training is business enablement, because we're not there to stop a company from making money. We're there to assess the risk and then say, hey, you can do this, but you should probably put these mitigating factors in place in order to reduce your risk. And that is something that I think that is missing in a lot of the teachings that are done, especially on the college level.
Yeah, they teach us, cybersecurity people are not the cops. We are
Hmm.
not there to stop anybody. We're there to enable and do it in a secure way. So one of the biggest soft skills or human system skills, like I like to call them, is learning how to communicate what the best course of action is for that particular situation. And we had a great interaction with Brian Losada, the CISO of HBO Max, where he says security should be transparent to the user,
Yes.
and it should flow smooth with them. And we have a lot of technology out there that allows us to do that, but we need to teach our people not to be the internet cops, not to be the that companies say no, you can't do this, because as soon as you do that, security starts getting pushed aside.
And yet, then you have rogue IT.
Yeah.
So, what's your take, Bill? What do you think, man? Because you're working in the instruction, you work as an instructor. So, what have you seen, and how does this help, or are you seeing this change within the college that you're at of enabling the business versus saying no?
Well, the first thing I think of is there's actually a graphic that's been out there for years. You've probably seen it. I believe it's an army base in Germany, and it's snow covered, and it has the gate on the road. And you see what people have done is they've just driven around the gate. Okay. And that's Eric's point about if you try to make things too secure, people just go around it.
Yeah.
And I have a real life example. I was at a hospital up in northern Jersey, and it was 5 o'clock in the morning, and I had just gotten done a pen test assignment, and I had to leave. And thankfully, I had my wife's car that day, so I had a little all-wheel drive vehicle, SUV type of thing that could actually go up the curb and over the curb, because I'm like, I'm not sitting here till 8 o'clock in the morning. They were, because I had gotten there at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm leaving at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they tried to have this security control of, well, you can't leave, and I'm like, the heck you say? I'm going to leave. Now that's physical security, but it applies in technology and
Hmm.
physical security. If you make it too secure, people are going to circumvent your controls. So you have to find a balance. I don't want to say invisible, because people should know where the guardrails are. That's my opinion. People should know where the guardrails are. It's a balance. I don't want to be invisible. I want you to know the guardrail is here, but it's the guardrail that's gonna like sort of have that soft, like a soft bumper on it, maybe, and like it's not like you're gonna hit the guardrail and die. You're gonna hit the
Like bumper
guardrail and
cars.
it's gonna go. You can't go any further. Stop.
It's
Kind of
like
like
driving on a go-kart track, right? You hit the tires on the side. You don't hit a big steel guardrail.
exactly like go karts. It's like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Okay, but I live to see another day.
Exactly. And I'm all for that. And those guardrails are right. And to your point, I mean, we see that to this day. There's a lot of proxies or other WAFs or other firewalls or whatever. When people put them in place, are, hey, you're going to get a warning if you go to a website you're not supposed to, right? It's going to say, hey, this site is blocked. So those types of controls, yes, but there is still a lot of security that should be invisible. Your EDR, unless you do something wrong or download a malicious payload, you should not know it's there. You should not ever see anything from your EDR unless something happens. Your If you have like a Rapid7 agent on there that's scanning your system for vulnerabilities, you should never see any interaction from it. So things like that, you're right. You should
Except when
not.
your computer slows down when it starts, and
And, and so everybody talks about that, right? All these agents. Oh my God, I can't add another agent to my system. But let me truly ask a question on that because, and I know this is supposed to be about training, but this show, it just goes all over the place. When it comes to these agents and when it comes to the hardware that's out there right now, the hardware that is out there to this day, do you really think it's affected by half of these agents that are deployed on the systems? Beyond Norton, we're not talking Symantec and McAfee
Oh,
here,
we're not
Eric.
talking crypto mining.
Well, dude, no. I'm talking like Rapid7 or some of these, really minimal Python agents that are created. Are they really affecting systems that much?
You know the answer, Eric. It's those two words that every consultant says.
What's
It
that?
depends.
It depends.
It
I am a
depends.
consultant. I do say
Okay.
Well, no,
I am going to tell you from experience right now. I've got 2 laptops over there from 2 customers from my day job. And one of them decided to put their scanner to kick off at 12 midday. From
Why?
12 to 2 o'clock, my computer, I can't open almost anything. And
Well,
it's a top of the line model.
but that's a scanner. You were eating up all that. When it's scanning, it is eating everything.
That's
but
what you asked.
But
you
what
know,
I'm
no.
saying is there's times for these. I'm saying the agent itself does not eat up the hardware.
And
You
or
schedule the scans to be spaced when people aren't using the machines.
right, if you configure an agent, if you fire it off in the middle of the workday, you deserve to be shot.
Yes.
I,
Yes.
and that's the part of transparency, right? Is I'm going to run this, but I'm going to run it when it doesn't affect the crucial business process. That would be like standard IT and saying I'm going to rebuild database indexes at 2 o'clock in
On a
the afternoon.
Friday. On a
What?
Friday.
No,
Well,
wait,
I
till 9
didn't
o'clock
tell
in the evening
them.
when
I
everyone's
didn't
gone
tell
home.
them because now my nap time is between 12 and 2. So
Well, that's Eric's nap time.
But that is, we look at all these things, and before we're at about 47 minutes, and we got time. If I go late, I go late. You know me, I don't care.
Yeah, we know.
But so the way I see it though is like this: you have agents out there that are, yes, they're going to be intensive. If you're scanning and you got to look at it when you're scanning something, whether that be an antivirus program or a vulnerability management program, when you are scanning, it is literally taking every bit of CPU and memory that it can access at that time and consuming it. That is what it's going to do because it wants to get done as quick as possible. So it's going to eat all that hardware. So, but to me, that's the same concept of when does your internet slow down?
just
Your internet
download.
slows down
Just
at lunchtime,
why don't you download some more RAM?
right? Just go to google.com and go to download RAM. You'll be all
Download RAM.
right. But I look at that, and if you're, and again, to William's point, if you're setting up scans that happen midday during the week when people are there, you really need to take a look at yourself and wonder why the hell you did that. You do, because there's no excuse for it,
Because
unless
you're
it's a
affecting the
server.
business.
You
At
are.
that point, you're affecting the business.
Exactly. And again, what did we just say? Business enablement. That's what security should be about. Without business enablement, you get somebody who's going to pull out their personal laptop and just be like, you know what? I'll plug in through here. Let's go. I mean, that's what's going to happen. Or they'll go on wireless and do their work from a personal computer because they know at lunchtime I'm not going to be able to go on YouTube. I'm not going to be able to do anything. I'm going to connect to work's Wi-Fi and I'll be good. Eric, we know you now. God, you're old. Come on, you got to take your siesta break from 12 to 5, and you're good to go. But
And all these tools, and it's funny because that's one of the things. Like if you take like a Rapid7 or a Tenable Nessus, whatever they're calling themselves this week, you can tone the product down and to use less resources.
mm-hmm.
And then actually, I sometimes will actually mention that, like in the ethical hacking class, I say, actually, that's one of the best ways to not get caught, is because you slow down and nobody knows you're there. But that's the real world examples of you have to support the business to keep them within the guardrails and not blatantly hurt them to the point where they want to shoot you, Eric.
Support Eric type siesta on the chat.
Yes.
But I want to get back to what you just said, and you said something that is very important to me. And you said, from a hacker's mentality, you take your time, you go slow, and you find the weaknesses. You do these things so that you don't get caught. Right? It's all about being
Quiet,
being invisible. And John said it. Take a hacker's approach. Do it low and slow. So let's talk about let's bring this back around to what it was originally about this episode, which is training. And I want to bring it back to that because what I have seen in every training I have been in, every single one, and it was my biggest problem in the army. It's actually why I got turned down from a job because I told them they were doing shit wrong. Is every certification up until I never took SANS like XPen or anything like that, but whether it be the OSCP or anything else like that, everything is taken from the perspective of a pen tester, right? And a pen tester, red teamer, and hacker are all different.
Okay.
A pen tester is going to run every tool under the sun, set off every alarm, and that's what a pen tester does. They just want to find the holes as quickly as possible because that's a pen test. A red teamer is going to go silently and really try to exploit your systems and see if they can avoid being caught, just like a hacker. That's the difference between a pen test and a red team engagement where you truly are trying to be more in the mindset of a hacker. So, when all of these classes are taught that teach offensive security, they teach the pen test mentality. Run Nmap against 65,535 ports. Go ahead, run it as fast as possible. Run SC-SV- whatever -OA, whatever you want.
Got it.
Exactly. Sloths survive in the wild by moving so slow, predators do not notice them. Very true. Eric, we love you.
We are happy.
We're all happy. You're the only one that's upset. It's okay. He wants them to type siesta on the chat. But I look at it and I'm like, and what I told, so when I was getting out of the army, I was interviewing for a job in Georgia, and it was to be an instructor for the army. And I said, all right, let me ask you a question. In these classes that you're teaching, are you teaching them, hey, run Nmap and just go? Or are you teaching them, hey, pick a port that you think should be vulnerable and scan just that port? And they're like, well, I'm like, no wells. I want to know that if I'm getting into this, it's from a red team hacker perspective, not a pen test, let's throw every tool under the sun at it perspective. And although the one lady seemed to agree with me, they never called me back. And I think it's because I blew up their spot of, you're teaching pen testing. You're not teaching red teaming and hacking, which are completely different things. Because with the exception of an external Nmap scan, which we see all the time, you've got websites that are constantly being bombarded by, especially these days, Log4j and JNDI requests and everything like that. Once they find that hole from the outside or send a phishing engagement, they're quiet. You don't hear it, you don't see it, and their whole goal is to go undetected. They want to bypass their EDR, if not turn it off and disable it completely. And so exactly, and it's up here again, low and slow. So how do we take that mentality into our trainings? How do we get away from this pen tester mentality into a actual offensive mentality? Because I think that's what a lot of red teams are missing, is that offensive mentality. They get pushed from pen test into red team, but don't know how to do it.
Well, I think whenever you're thinking about learning or training, you think of it as, and people have said, I have to have technical experience and I have to have the book smarts, because the book smarts help me to do the technical thing. And, there's always exceptions to this rule. Like, I went on a certification spree in like 2008 and 2009. But you know what? I had been working with technology for 18, 20 years before that. So, okay, so I was making up for lost time, and I was making the HR people happy at that point because I hadn't done that. I had done a few things here and there, and I was playing catch up with the certification route. But otherwise, you don't just go immerse yourself 100% into books. Because books are part of it, but then you have to make it something that you've applied. You have to have that demonstrated, like you did a CTF, you did a Try Hack Me, you did, some of these different tools, and, you get some experience and you try to land a job. And you know what? Part of why you want to land another job is because they'll pay for the next cert.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of it. And, I'm with you. So when I was in the Army and I was going through my courses and getting my SAN certs, one of the questions asked to me by one of the students there, and one of the other soldiers, was, "How do you know all this? How are you able to do this already?" And my what I told them was, you know, when I go home, I don't go home and play video games. I don't go home and watch TV. I take an hour, if not 2 or 3 hours every night to practice my craft. So before I was ever doing security professionally for the Army, I was doing it on my own. I was doing Hack the Box. I was, learning Linux. I was learning all these different things and the tools of the trade and everything like that. That's how I knew the secrets of Nmap. And you don't want to scan 65,000 ports all at the same time. You want to limit it. And you really want to take your time and do these things. And I was learning the mentality of an actual hacker. And so when I got to these SANS courses and they were like teaching us all this stuff, I was like, okay, here's Metasploit, and I owned every computer in the classroom because they all had vulnerabilities. I just exploited them all, and I owned every computer. And people were amazed by that. I'm like, I don't come from an IT background of, oh, I fix computers, I can do security. I come from a background of, oh, I fix computers, but I really love security, so I'm going to learn it. And then by the time they sent me there, I had my CEH. I had already known it. When I took my CEH, I'd already known what I was doing when I went through there. I just happened to learn a hell of a lot more because Keytron Evans is an awesome instructor who taught me a hell of a lot more than what the course actually asked for. So, but that was why. And it comes down to, like you said, you had been doing it for years. You had already been working up to the point of getting certifications. The certifications just came as, well, I want to go apply for more jobs. Let's go knock these out real quick so I can get through a HR window.
Yep.
Like that's all it was.
And I think that's one of the things that's happening with the certs right now is that people are using them as, I want to learn, I want to get these certs so I can get through that HR firewall. And, they need to know that once you get through that HR firewall, now is where the rubber meets the road. Now it's where you need to know and you get the skills to do the job that you were meant to do.
Oh, for sure. And I think Shannon hit the nail on the head when she said she's going for more skills now. She has these certs.
Yep.
Now she's going to get the skills or improve her technical capability so that when that interview comes along, you can speak to it. You have the certs. You better be able to answer the questions or at least have your hands on the equipment and know what you're talking about.
Okay, so as we hit the top of the hour here, we have a question here
Yeah.
that I saved.
This one's all you, Bill.
Okay, Bill, Mr. Instructor Man. As a matter of fact, let's put him on the big screen here. Go for it.
All right, well, he's on the big screen. I'll be right back.
Oh! If a class does poorly, does the fault lay on the instructor? What if the class does well? Well, it's not black or white. It's the first thing I'm going to say. There are shades of gray here. And, part of that is because there's a bell curve in every single class. There always is. You've got people who basically could almost pass the test on day one, right? Or basically could achieve all the. If you're teaching a degree program, there are some people who will come in ready to do it, and they're just taking the course because it's a requirement. They have to get the credits because the college or the school or the university or the certification program needs to check the box that you've gone through a certain series of steps. There are other people who, of course, are right in the middle and they have to learn. And then, of course, there are a few people who are at the way back at the bottom. And they're new to the field, they're new to the technology, and they think the instructor will do everything. And I'm sorry, I'm an instructor, I'm human, I will try my best. I have to keep it interesting. Absolutely. John, I know that name. I keep seeing that name and I'm going, wait a minute, I know this guy, John. I think the instructor's a big piece of it, right? But it's not all the instructor. And that's one of the things I fight with. I don't want to say fight with, or I work through is like when someone comes to me at the end of a semester and says I didn't learn anything, I always have the, where were you for the last 13 weeks? I have email, I have office hours, and when I'm doing like a boot camp, if they come to me on day 5, 6, or 7, whatever it is, and I say, what about that thing on day 1? I go, but communication is a two-way street. And especially online, in the online environment, and people turn off their cameras, which gets really, because then you have no knowledge, no feedback. Like I can't tell, like I wouldn't be able to tell. Did Cyber Warrior go get something to refill his beverage, or did he disappear for 3 hours? So, like there is that. Okay, if the class does well, it does tend to do it. It does tend to show that the instructor did a good job because it's very unlikely that everybody knew everything coming in. Now, if everyone does poorly, I've taught some union-based classes over the years, Cisco, ironically, and it was like pulling teeth. I would say, look, your employer is paying you to come attend these Cisco classes. And I'm imploring them, your employer, I know it sucks because they complain. It sucks. We're here at 6 o'clock in the evening and you keep us till 10. Because we're helping you get your CCNA and your employer is paying for this. They can't send you during the day. They hire me to come teach you at night. And they would go disappear for pizza and other things. We
Well,
actually did have somebody who came back with alcohol one time, and I'm like, it was a Pepsi bottle. How did I know?
Yeah,
So,
and John puts it very clearly. The students have to have the energy. So, when we go to classes, when we go to any training or education, it's not just the instructor being able to, it's not one-way communication. It's
feedback.
back feedback, and it behooves you as the student to try to get as much information out of that instructor as you can during whatever period of time that you have, the period of instruction that you have. Make the best out of that time to get you to know the information.
exactly. And so I'm gonna touch on that just because I had that conversation with my oldest son, not a few days ago, and it was very much there are going to be students, and I felt this when I was going through high school, and middle school and everything else like that, and even in college. There's going to be students that never answer a question, never raise their hand, never ask a question, just don't want to be involved. They're there because they have to be, not because they want to be. And that is one of the things that is very problematic. But if a teacher, whether it be in any grade, teachers who see that you are making an effort will give the extra effort to help you. They will always go above and beyond because now they feel engaged, like they're making a difference. And it's the same way in college. I had a teacher when I was going through calculus that literally was like, I don't know how you're failing my test. You answer every question in class. Like, and we worked on things and we worked at it and we got better because I was actively participating in class. And so she knew that I knew what I was talking about. But this was the only class that I ever froze up on tests. Like, she'd be like, hey, these are all the formulas you're going to use for the test today. And I'd look at it and I'd go, but I don't know which questions these go to. So I'm kind of stuck right now. I don't know what goes where. And she's like, how are you failing? Like, how are you doing this bad on tests when you answer every question? And so we worked at it and I got better. I passed the class, but it's one of those things when teachers see that you don't make an effort, they're not going to make an effort with you. And especially in IT and cybersecurity and the boot camps and the college courses for that, if the class isn't engaged, I don't blame the instructor. Now there are some instructors that are monotone, and there are some instructors I can blame for my master's degree program. But generally speaking, I don't blame the instructor. I blame the students for not asking the questions, for not being engaged. I taught one of my master's degrees programs courses, our intro to cybersecurity course, outside of the smoke pit because I raised my hand every class and asked questions. and she always gave me the "it depends" answer, or "it depends on money," and that's not an answer to a question. There were actual technical responses that you should have gave, and so I had to teach that to the kids outside while I was smoking a cigarette. So there were different things that I was just trying to get her to answer for the class that just never got answered. But yes, when it comes to teaching, it's a two-way street. It's not just the instructor. The class has to force that instructor sometimes to be engaging. And if the class isn't engaged, the instructor is going to get monotone or bored and just be like, you know what, y'all don't care. So what the hell? What should I be doing? Like, why am I here? If you don't care, why should I care? And I
Well,
feel
no,
for
no, as we were preparing for this, I was thinking about one of the classes I taught. We actually had a guy in a class. He ended up having the nickname of Triple Play. Huh? Because the guy would come in and brag about Xfinity, Triple Play, voice, internet, and TV service. But the thing was, he'd show up on like day 1 and day 2, and then he wouldn't show up until the end of the program. And then he'd say on like the last day or the next to last day, where are my books? Okay, whatever. But it was funny. The other students in the class picked up on it. So it got to the point where, oh, Triple Play asked that question. Oh, keep going. I was
so,
like, as an instructor, I was like, you got, wow, okay. I can't endorse this, but it's kind of funny.
So we're over time, which again, I don't necessarily care, but I do want to get back to
Let's go ahead to
training
the question.
paths. The question at hand by Jerry. And if someone was to start today, give me, in your opinion, Bill, and then we'll go through Eric and myself, a certification path from A plus to CISP, and kind of the best route they should go. And I know there's going to be an it depends. So what I would ask is, Bill, you did red team and pen testing, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, give me the offensive security perspective. Eric, you give me the blue team perspective, and then I'll kind of debate on both.
Well, you may not take the A plus exam, but you should understand all the curriculum in that program. And you should understand everything in Network Plus. And you may not take the exam. However, if you want to get a job and you want someone else to be chipping in towards your exams, then it's worth stopping to take those exams. Because at this point, I'm not A plus. I have the Good for Life certifications. I didn't maintain my continuing education versions. And as far as my CCNA, I didn't maintain it because I've gotten to that CISSP level where I'm not sitting there monkeying around with switches on a daily basis. But if you're looking to improve your job, from practical experience, sometimes it's worth stopping for that exam because it'll get you that job that will get you more money, that will actually fund the next level. And I think that sometimes is important as you're coming up in your learning path. Is you can't survive on, I'll say, McDonald's or Walmart money. You need to get that first technical job. So you've got to get that A plus or the Network Plus to get you up into the next tiers. So you now have more money and hopefully are getting perhaps even paid to take your next course. I do think the CompTIAs are very good stepping stones. I personally think the Cisco is more of a, if I want to spend my time in network security. But otherwise, then you ask yourself, what do I want to be? And if you want to be generalized, or if you want to be like a CISO, when I grow up, I want to be a CISO, then yeah, you go up the CISSP route. If you want to be an auditor, you take after your A plus, your Network Plus, you might stop at Security Plus, but then you go over to the ISACA world, and so you said, I want to be
APP.
The Certified Ethical Hacker is a good one that's out there, and the OSCP is another good one that's out there. And I say that because there are third-party books that are out there, and you can get your certifications. If you have an employer who will send you to SANS, take it. Everything is great about SANS. Everyone I've ever talked to is great about SANS. I just look at it and go, gee, I could take a CISSP for $1,000 out of pocket, or a SANS equivalent for $8,000. If it's my money, I have to go with $1,000. So one of these days, maybe I'll get lucky and someone will send me to SANS. But and if you want to do the red teaming, the OSCP, and then hopefully you can get a position and someone will pay you to take those SANS courses. And maybe you need to get a degree. because maybe your bachelor's degree was in basket weaving, and that's actually a joke I had like 20 years ago.
I
You
have
mean I
that for
could
all
have a
the
degree in
officers
basket
in the
weaving?
military.
Huh?
I have that joke for all the officers in the military. All their degrees are in basket weaving, and they end up in careers. I mean,
Mine was in ultimate frisbee. So
oh, that's a good one. Nice.
So yeah, and Brad has I kind of like Brad's point there. I
yeah.
may not do all of his points because like the CYSA, the cybersecurity analyst, I don't know. That's a little specific.
Hmm.
So that may not be a long term. It may work for you. It may not.
Yeah.
And once you get A plus net plus knowledge, you get the cert if you want to get the dollars, and then you pick your path that makes sense for you.
Okay. And again, I want to support what Brad said. DoD Directive 8570 gives you a really good roadmap for certifying to be an information security professional in the DoD, and it gives you a great process. But what I always tell to people is, and I just put a video on my channel on Eric Bellardo Cyber. The video is called Cybersecurity is Not. So go look it up in my channel. And, you know, cybersecurity is not a job. So we need to stop talking about it as it's a job. It's a career field. And, you know, there's about 50 different career paths. So, Jerry, to answer your question here of giving somebody a learning path to going to red teaming or blue teaming, well, you know, the red side of the house has, 10 different career paths. The blue teaming side of the house has, 20 different career paths. So it would be unfair for us to tell you what is the career, the good path for each one. But if I were to say in the blue team, I'll just take something like a security analyst. I would always say a SOC analyst. I would always say, you start with your A plus, you go to your net plus because you got to learn what happens in the network in order to defend it. You go to your Sec plus so you understand the security concepts, and then at that point in time, instead of going to kind of CISSP or any of those, there are the blue team training out there. Derek, what is the one in the UK?
SecurityBlue.team. They
Yeah,
have the SBT level 1 and level 2 out
level
now,
two.
and I was actually an advisor for level 1. I stand behind their
Yeah.
certifications and their training. So from a blue team and analyst perspective, that's definitely a route to go.
And then the second one that I highly, highly support is Cover Six Solutions, Ty
Yes.
Wilson. They have a cybersecurity analyst course for SOC that brings you, you take your A plus, you take your net plus, you take your sec plus, and you take that course. And you are in a great position to be a SOC analyst. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is first learn about all the careers in cybersecurity, all the different jobs, and then look at what is going to be the classes that I need to enter those. As William said, if you want to go GRC, there's courses in with ISACA or IAPP, or there's different organizations out there with different courses that'll help you get into that governance, risk, and compliance side of the house. CIS has a great one. Carnegie Mellon has some great courses. And so there's a lot of different courses out there and course providers that are going to help you get to those career fields.
Yeah, definitely. And for Jerry's question, it's Cover Six Solutions. So here, I'll put it in the chat for you. Cover Six Solutions. Um, they are Ty Wilson is a buddy of mine. He's another veteran, and he is an amazing instructor. I've actually helped teach some of his courses, especially
Yeah.
on buffer overflows when it comes to the offensive side of things. But what he does for the community and the what that company and that organization does for the community, especially in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
With DC Cyber, is amazing. So their meetups, their
The
groups,
meetups
they're
are
involved in
amazing. Yeah.
everything. So If you can get to it, if you're in the DC area, it's well worth going to, as well as all the training he does, which is a lot of online virtualized training through Zoom and things like that. Or I think it's GoToMeeting. I don't remember. But for me, when I'm looking at a certification route, again, I'm kind of looking at everything. I think GRC is a little rough. There's not a lot of certifications that really meet GRC standard at a lower cost level. But having the technical know-how and the technical chops to be able to interpret.
He can't make it to DC.
No, I don't think he's going to make it to DC at all. Jerry, I still love you. Look up Cover 6 Solutions. They'll still help you out on GoToMeeting. There you go. Shayna. She's taking the Cover 6 SOC Prep class right now. Get in touch with Tyrone Wilson, Jerry. It's I can't remember his Twitter handle, but if you look up Cover 6 Solutions or Tyrone Wilson, you'll find it. But yeah, when I'm looking at the certification route, A+, Net+, Sec+, I'm not going to say they're all mandatory. I'm going to say that they're all advised, and it's because they're inexpensive to an extent to some people. They're probably some of the more inexpensive certifications you can get. But in terms of, I don't like the route of certifications and the cost of certifications going up from there. So if you're looking at a security route, INE offers a lot of company discounts and things like that. So if you can get your organization to pay for it, INE would be a route to go.
Yeah.
A Cloud Guru would be a route to go. I'm not going to say these are going to get you past HR. I'm not going to say these are the best certifications in the world. What I am saying is I think they offer more valid certifications and more capability and learning and training potential than what is out there prior to the CISP. As much as I love the OSCP, I took it, I have it. I think it's a great certification. I think they're doing a lot of things wrong these days. They have changed things. They have made things different to where now they're trying to meet the potential of the student versus making the student live up to their potential. And that was my problem in the Army, and that's going to be my problem now. If you are changing things to make it easier for somebody to pass versus keeping your standard and making it to where you have to meet this standard, there's a problem. And you should never lower the bar. Don't lower the bar.
Statement made by Derek Scheller. Do not represent the statements of CyberWarriorStudios.
But I stand by that fact of you look at it. I don't want.
I just did a disclaimer, and you go
exactly. I'm still Derek. I stand by my beliefs of you don't lower the bar. I had that argument already with offensive security and people that helped design the tests. You don't lower the bar. I've written emails in the Army about them lowering the standard. You don't lower the standard to help people to pass. If you have a standard, you keep it because there is a reason for that standard to begin with. And so not only have they raised the cost, they lowered the standard. So now they've made it to where everybody can get there. And I don't agree with that.
I think one of the key things, and this is something I would look at INE and all these other programs, I would look to see how they match up. And it's not even DoD 8570. There's actually a new...
They changed the number now, so it's not 8570 anymore.
But it's the equivalent. So if you do a Google search, it'll point you to it. And I've seen a couple certification programs that purposely made themselves easy. And thankfully, if you stick to something that's on the DoD 8570 or its equivalent, it means the DoD has said, it has the right standard that we need. What was it? SCP? It was like a security certified professional years ago. And it was a quasi cert. It was kind of on the fringe. And I bought the books and I was like, I was very happy I didn't waste my money taking the exam because like a year later, it just became a money grab. And every 2 years you had to retake the exam. I was like,
but they keep doing that. They keep turning into money grabs. And that's what frustrates me is they see the money coming in and they're like, oh, we can make more money. Now, I'm not there. I'm not working there. I'm not the CEO. I'm not whatever. Oh, thank you, Brad, for mentioning that because I forgot about that. Cloud security. Oh, how I hate somebody else's computer. But
Well, that's the saying. Cloud computing is someone else's computer.
Yeah.
that's all it is. But no, the CCSP is a very, very valid cert, and it is very much noteworthy and gives so much,
Let
so much.
me stop and say, number one, please, guys. There's a lot of people watching. Hit that like button first.
Yes,
Okay,
please
do
hit
that
like.
for us. That's going to help us a lot. And number two, AWS certs,
Yep.
GCP certs, Azure certs. Even if you do not have the CCSP, look at those individual certs that are
Yes.
there in the training for each one of those technologies. They give you that additional humph, if you will, on your
Yep.
resume. And also, it teaches a lot of good tactics and techniques to defend and secure these platforms.
And
So,
that's where A Cloud Guru comes in and
yeah.
other platforms like it that give that capability of learning the cloud. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if not for A Cloud Guru. I learned so much from what they teach that it was of vital importance in my career field and in my job right now. So with A Cloud Guru, I was able to learn a lot from Azure and AWS. I didn't do anything with GCP, but I work with Google. Like I know Google pretty well. I just haven't delved much into anything beyond their email.
Is it Azure or Azure?
I'm not sure.
Azure. I don't know. But at the end of the day, look, here's what it comes down to, and we are well over time. I don't normally go this late, but if we're looking at certifications, if we're looking at your learning pathway in 2022,
It's past his bedtime.
oh no, it's not past my bedtime. You're the old one, not me. It really comes down to it does depend, and there's a lot of blogs, a lot of articles out there that will give you their own pathways, and it very much depends on you and what you want to do.
Yeah.
If you want to, I will say this: I separated it red team and blue team, but the reality of it is, to do one, you have to know the other. So if you're gonna do red team, you might want to know what logs the red team is looking for.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do blue team, you might want to know what logs the red team is going to generate. And so, and if you're going to do GRC, ISACA, and CIS benchmarks and things like that, GRC is of vital importance. Go check out Eric Villardo Cyber when we're done here, because the show we did yesterday with one of the founders of the CIS benchmarks is phenomenal, and his explanation of it and the way it can map so many different policies, procedures, and things like that. So if you're looking for training going into 2022, get a hold of one of us, whether it be Bill, Eric, myself, or any countless others that are out there. We will mentor you on training, but I will say it is very difficult to design a pathway if you don't know what you want to do.
Exactly. Number one, and if you go catch the video that I did on cybersecurity is not, the first thing that I tell you is look at all the pathways, look at what are your three most interesting ones, and then start going down those paths. Okay, but if you don't know what you want to do, it's going to be very hard to try to select which cert you're going to take, and you're going to go different routes. But again, that's not bad because our field, like Bill will tell you, that we start in one area and then a couple years later we're in another area, and another year, a couple years, in Bill and I have been doing this for what, 30 plus years?
100 plus years. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you've been around since Jesus. It's okay.
Ding, 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 ding. I just encrypted this tablet. Okay. All right. So you know, in our careers, we've done blue team, we've done red team, we've done GRC, we've done management, we've done vulnerability, we've done firewalls, we've done switches and networking and routing and architecture. So yes, you will learn one thing and you will find your passion, but you will experience many of the different career fields. So learn, be ready to learn for 30 years. It doesn't stop at the cert.
No.
Yep.
No, and that was one of the
Bill,
other
final
key
words.
things, Eric, exactly, is you've got to keep learning. And sometimes it's you learn, you get a job, and you continue.
And Brad gives his final words of if you ever want to know how to pronounce a company name properly, call their support number, wait for them to say the name, then hang up. So those listening on the podcast, that's how you do it. But yeah, William, you said it, and really what it comes down to is I'm more of a generalist. I've studied all aspects of the field. Not many people can do that. It's very rare. It's a rare capability to really learn and understand all aspects. And I'm not an expert in any means. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I can write an exploit because I fucking can't. What it comes down to is I just understand what people are talking about, no matter what area they're in, and that's more of an upper level skill of I can now work in management and talk to all these other areas and know what they're talking about. I may not be able to do their job because they are siloed and they're professional and they know what they're doing, but I can talk and understand their language and know, okay, you need to do this. All right. And maybe kick around some ideas. I'm not saying I can do their job. I'm saying I can at least speak their language and give ideas on what they may be able to do. I can't do it myself. But from a blue team perspective, hands down all day, red team perspective, I can do the pen testing route, not necessarily the red team route. I can run tolls all day. I ain't gonna say I can be quiet about it. So it all depends on where you've been, and a lot of my jobs have been pen testing and blue teaming. So I haven't had that red team experience of really having to be silent. So it's a skill set that you have to develop, and if you don't practice it, if you don't work on it, then you can't. But saying that, look, it is well past top of the hour. We're going on 8:30. Look, if you want to support Cyber Warrior Studios, go to CyberWarriorStudios.com. You can find all the way to support us right there. You can buy all the amazing merchandise that we have. And other than that, look, I love you all. We are going to be back next week with another amazing episode. I don't know my guest yet because it keeps
Because he
changing.
doesn't. He doesn't.
It keeps changing. I line one up and, they're like, I can't make it. So now I got to find someone else. So if you want to be on the episode, go ahead, sign up. We can get you on next week. Other than that, like I said, Cyber Warrior Studios. Check out Eric Velardo Cyber. The man has a lot of shows out there, a lot of news. Look, if you're looking for cyber news, truly looking for cyber news, go to Eric Velardo Cyber. Check out all his news. Like, subscribe, comment on this video. And Bill, it's a pleasure having you once again. And thank you for volunteering to be on. I look forward to having you on in the future. Maybe when we do a bigger episode, we'll pull you on with a bunch of other people, and we'll do a huge, round table. But look, there's the link down below, youtube.com, Eric Velardo Cyber. That is my co-host. That is Eric Velardo. He is my partner in crime. We do everything together, and I really, truly hope, to see you all on new battlefields or
Oh, wait,
raíces.
wait.
Oh, wait.
There.
Dancing Granny had it come out. Oh, that's right. That's right. Look, if you're listening on the podcast and you're listening this long, we pulled out Dancing Granny. It finally came out. Shayna,
There you
thank
go.
you for reminding Eric because he forgot, and so did I. Uh, but I love you all. Look, thank you for all the love, support, and everything that you've given. There's Patreon, there's Buy Me a Coffee, there's Cash App, there's every which way you can support Cyber Warrior Studios and keep our mission and our journey going.
It's all in the description. Go read it.
Everything
Go help.
down
It's all down there.
below. Down below.
Look, even
Go ahead
Granny's
and read
pointing
it.
down below.
Yeah, there you go.
See?
And just because of that,
We get Dancing Robot now. Look, man, anybody that's watched this long, I love you. I do. I love you. Man, you kept up with us all night. Thank you. Take care. And I will definitely see all of my supporters next week. Have a good one.